Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read at 66099 Wayside School, Chapter 16, DJ. DJ skipped up 30 flights of stairs to Mrs. Jewell's room. He was grinning from ear to ear, from nose to chin, from here to there, and back again. Hey DJ, Todd shouted, glad to see ya. Todd was a pushover for smiling faces. Mrs. Jules heard him. She began to write Todd's name on the board under discipline, but when she saw DJ smile, she put down the chalk. Good morning, DJ. What are you so happy about? DJ grinned and shrugged his shoulders. Mrs. Jules smiled. Damien looked at the smile on Mrs. Jules' face, then at Todd's, and finally at DJ. Then Damien smiled, too. His smile was almost as big as DJ's. They were best friends. Once they saw the two of them smiling, the rest of the class couldn't help but smile. The Randy had a very cute one. Dude was two missing front teeth. Nobody had an ugly smile. Jason came to school late. He was very upset. But the first thing he saw was Damien's smile. And he felt a little bit better. Then he saw Randy's toothless grin. And he even began to smile a little himself. But when he saw the piano on DJ's face, he fell, laughing, onto the floor. Everybody started to laugh. Even Kathy Ann, she hardly ever laughed except when someone hurt himself. The whole room seemed to be laughing, but not just the people in it. The blackbirds chuckled, ceiling snickered, desks were jumping up and down, and the chairs were slapping one another on the back. The floor was very ticklish. It laughed until the walls turned purple. The water-paper basket started to sing, and all the pencils stood up and danced. Finally, things began to settle down. Mrs. Jules wiped her eyes and said, DJ, why don't you tell the class why you are so happy? At least let us know what we are laughing about. But DJ just kept on smiling. Come on, DJ, said Didi, tell her. DJ didn't say a word. He couldn't. His mouth was stretched out of shape. Let us guess. If we guess right, will you tell us? DJ nodded his head. His smile began to hurt his ears. Everyone took one guess. Have you been swimming? Is it your birthday? Are you in love? Did you get a green ball? Nobody guessed. Right at recess, DJ was still smiling. Louis, the yard teacher, called, hey, DJ, come here. They walked to the far corner of the playground where they were alone. What's up, DJ? DJ just smiled. Come on, DJ, you can tell me. Why are you so happy? He said, you need a reason to be sad? You don't need a reason to be happy. Chapter 17, John. John had light brown hair and a round head. He was Joe's best friend. John was one of the smartest boys in Mrs. Jules' class, but he had one problem. He could only read words written upside down. Nobody ever wrote anything upside down, but it was only a little problem. John was still in the high reading group. He just turned his book upside down. It was easier for John to turn his book upside down than to learn to read correctly. But the easiest way isn't always the best way, Mrs. Jules said. John, you can't go on reading like this. You can't spend the rest of your life turning your books upside down. Why not? Asked John. Because I said so, said Mrs. Jules. Besides, what happens when I write something on the blackboard? You can't turn the blackboard upside down. No, I guess you're right, said John. I know I'm right, said Mrs. Jules. You're going to have to learn to stand on your head. John couldn't stand on his head. He had given up trying. You'd have to. If you had fallen over as many times as he had. Joe was John's best friend. He could stand on John's head. Every time John fell over, Joe stood on his head. After all, what are best friends for? My head is too round, Mrs. Jules. I can't stand on it, said John. Of course you can, John, said Miss Joe. If Joe can stand on your head, so can you. It's easy, John, said Joe. I can. I always fall over. Nonsense. All you have to do is find the center of a balance. Now up you go. John put his round head on the floor and swung his legs up. He fell right over. Then Joe stood on John's head. See, John, it's easy. Nothing to it, Joe said. We'll help you, John, said Mrs. Jules. Joe, get off John's head and get me the pillow from under my desk. Nancy, Calvin, come here and give us a hand. Mrs. Jules took the pillow from Joe and set it on the floor. All right, John, we'll surround you, she said. We won't let you fall. John put his head on the pillow, swung his legs up. He started to fall one way, but Nancy pushed him back up Then he started to fall another way, but Calvin straightened him out. John kept falling a little bit this way and that way, until at last he found the center of a balance. Oh, ha ha, hey. Down, upside it. Turn to have the, you don't know. Calvin. Wow. Bam. While Calvin went to get the book, John fell flat on his face. You better stay off my head, Joe, he warned. Are you all right, John? Asked Mrs. Joel. Yes, I think so. I feel a little funny. Hey, I can still read the blackboard, and I'm not upside down. I can read right side up now. And I felt I must have flipped my brain or something. That is wonderful, John, said Mr. Joel. Here, put the pillow back under my desk. As a reward, you may have a Tootsie Roll Pop. They are in the coffee can on top of my desk. John placed a pillow on top of a desk. Then he looked under the desk, but he couldn't find the Tootsie Roll Pops anywhere. Chapter 18, Leslie. Leslie had 5 fingers on each hand and 5 toes on each foot. For each hand, she had an arm. And for each foot, she had a leg. She was a very lucky girl, and she had 2 lovely long brown pigtails that reached all the way down to her waist. When Mrs. Joel asked her questions, Leslie could raise one of her hands. When Leslie was adding, she could count on her fingers. When Paul pulled one of her pigtails, she could kick him with one foot while standing on the other. But Leslie had one problem. She didn't know what to do with her toes. She had 10 adorable little toes. Nothing to do with them, as far as she could tell. They served no useful purpose. Suck your toes, that's what I do, said Sherry. But Leslie's foot wouldn't reach her mouth. Well, that's all toes I got for, said Sherry. She put her foot in her mouth and went to sleep. No, thought Leslie, they must be good for something. They just have to be. During recess, she asked Dana, Dana, what do you do with your toes? I scratch the back of my legs. First, I scratch my left leg with my right foot. Then I scratch my right leg with my left foot. But my legs don't itch, said Leslie. That's good, said Dana. In that case, you can scratch my legs. With your help, I can scratch both legs at the same time. No, never mind. She walked up behind Louis, the art teacher, and hopped on his shoulder. Louis, I don't know what to do with my toe. Louis tucked her foot. Yes, that's a serious problem, he said, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take them off your hands for you, or rather your feet. Just cut them off and give them to me. What? Asked Leslie. You don't want them, so I'll take them, said Louis. You won't have to worry about them ever again. No. I'll give them to Miss Marsh. She can make little hot dogs out of them. Miss Marsh was the lunch teacher. No, I'm not going to give my toes away. All right. I'll give you a nickel a piece for them. No, you can't have them. Why not? They're no good to you anyhow. And think of all you can buy for 50 cents. The bell rang. I'll think it over, said Leslie. She ran back to class. Miss Jewel, I don't see any reason for keeping my toes. Oh, Leslie, I'm sure there are lots of good reasons. Well, I can't think of any. My legs don't itch. I can't get my foot in my mouth. Louis offered me a nickel apiece for them, and it seems to me like a good deal, but I wanted to check with you first. I think Louis was pulling your leg. No, he was pulling my toes. What would he want with your toe? I don't know, but if he's willing to give me 5 cents apiece for them, then I'm gonna take him up on it. That's 50 cents. Leslie walked up Louis. Okay, Louis, you can have my toes for a nickel apiece. That'll be 50 cents. Not so fast. Let me look at them first. Leslie took off her shoes. Yes. The big ones are good, the ones next to them, but the most I'll give you for the rest of your toe is 3 cents each. Leslie was furious. 3 cents each? You told me 5 at least. I'll give you 5 cents for the big one, but just look at the scrawny little runt of a toe on the end. You're lucky to be getting even 3 cents for it. I think you're getting a darn good deal. I happen to like that toe. Fine then, keep it. I'll just take the 2 big toes and we'll call it square. He reached in his pocket and pulled out a dime. Nothing doing. These toes are sold as a set. It's either all 10 for 50 cents or no deal. What am I going to do with just 8 toes? Then forget it. I'm not going to give you a nickel for those scrawny little end toes. Fine, no deal. My toes will still be here if you change your mind. She turned and walked toward the hopscotch area. Wait a second. I'll give you $1 each for your pigtails. As he turned around, looked at him with fiery eyes. Cut my hair? Are you crazy? Chapter 9, Miss Jarves. There is no Miss Jarves. There is no 19th story. Sorry. The end.